adjusted here. All right. All right. So I'll end up reposting this up. Someone's going to go through this. But we are making some professional wrestling knee pads, custom knee pads. I think I cut my finger. So, but we're making them to match this gear right here for the Kazanas. You can see the logo on the back. So they're going to go with these. With a set of tag team gear. I'm going to move this so it doesn't get anything on it. But you can see the whole set here. Long tights, and I'm just going to show you one. We got those trunks there. We got his brother / tag partner right here. He's a little smaller guy. And his has tights that go along with them. So we've got these two. He does kind of the old school long tights with the trunks over them, which I love that look. So these are done and ready to go, but we have to make knee pads for them. So we're going to put these off to the side here. And we've got our table prepped to do some knee pads. Now, we've already got the front plate, the front logo and all that cut out. So here's one. So we've got two of those, and then we've got two like this with the lightning on it. What's upside down? With the lightning on it that matches KC's. These are already stitched down and lined. I got these done earlier. So I do line these so they're a little thicker, so they hold up better. But the front plate, or front panel I should say, is already done. So we're not going to need that right now. So we're going to put that off to the side. And then supply list, we've got our measurements, but you got to have your measurements. So if everybody's popping on, we're making some custom knee pads. We already got our front panels done. So we got our measurements here. You're going to need those. Oh, supply list. Oh, some kind of adhesive. So we've got spray and bond, and we've got this Super 77. Both work really well. We got a lining material that we're going to need. So I'm just using this because you're not going to see the liner anyway. And then we have our back panel, which I'm trying something on this. The back panel I cut a little bit smaller than the front panel, so that way there's no like bunching on the inside of the knee pad. So we've got that. I only cut one set of these back panels for now because I want to try it first and see how it fits. Because if I don't like the way it fits, then I'm going to go back and cut another one the same size. But I think this will work a lot better. And then we have our elastic, because we need two pieces for the top of each one, and we need two pieces for the bottom of each one. So we need 4 pieces of 7-inch elastic and 4 pieces of 5-inch elastic for this particular one because of the measurements. And then I've got these strips that I'm going to use to wrap around the elastic so they match the knee pad. So first thing we want to do is, and I'm pretty sure I cut myself on my razor already, cut out our knee pad, cut out the padding. I've got a pattern here. Your pattern is just going to depend on your size and everything else. This is the pattern that works for me. This is roughly an extra large. But this size padding works pretty well for large all the way up to like a 2X. Maybe not quite a medium. And then I use this floor mat foam. It's like a dense EVA floor mat foam. It's 1/2 inch thick. I like the 1/2 inch thick for knee pads. You can get this at Harbor Freight. That's where I get it most of the time. And it comes in like packs of 4 or 6 or so. Not very expensive. Pretty affordable. But I need 4 of these. So I do what they call a keyhole cutout, which is this little keyhole here, which works really well. It helps with the bend of the knee pad. So you can glue this down to it or hold it to it and cut around it. if you want. I just trace it first and then cut it with the razor blade because I don't want to risk cutting into my pattern and everything. So, and these sheets you can get usually about 4 to 6 pads out of one sheet, and it works pretty good. Just try to maximize your space as much as you can. So we're going to trace these out. And for the tracing, I just use a Sharpie marker. It works pretty good. Make sure you have a sharp knife when you do this, because if you try to do this with a dull knife, it's a pain. You can use a big utility knife. You can use a hot knife, an X-Acto knife. I've got a Westcott X-Acto knife, and I like this one a lot. It's got like a titanium blade, I think, is what it was, but it stays sharp for quite a while. So don't skimp on your tools, because it will save you a lot of headache, especially if you're going to do a lot of these. I'll show you the pattern that I've got too for the padding and everything, and for the plates, because that does make a difference too. Yeah, this one I think I'm just going to get 4 out of it pretty much, so which isn't horrible. So this padding's not very expensive, considering how many you can get out of it. So figure if you can get 4 pieces of pad this size out of it, out of one sheet, and I want to say there's 4 sheets in a pack. And a pack was, I think, like $9. So you can get 16 knee pads out of it for $9 for the padding. You can buy it cheaper somewhere else, I'm sure, to get online. But if you need something quick, just go hit Harbor Freight, buy these. This stuff is a little more rigid than some of the padding, but I like the density. You can use blue camping foam pad too, which works really well. It's lighter, so it doesn't have as much shock absorption. The blue camping pad foam is lighter, so it doesn't have as much shock absorption to it like this does, and it does wear out faster though. So this holds up really well. And again, like here's my pattern. You can see I got this traced on here. I got 4 of them traced out, and this is the same size as my front plate. The only difference is I bring my front plate or front panel, I make it longer at the bottom, so there's room to sew around the edge of the bottom of it and stuff, and it seals it in and locks it in. Cut my finger. So yeah, there's that, and I'll show you that on the pattern too. Because when you put a cuff around the bottom of this, when you're done with it, you put a cuff around the bottom of it, so you have to have that extra lip. I put quite a bit extra, so that way I've got room to work with, and then I just pull it really tight. So I'll show you guys that probably in this video. I don't know, we'll see. So we don't need our padding pattern, so let's put this up in here, and then we'll cut this out. If you want to use a straight razor or a straight ruler, you can. I don't. I just cut mine. Especially if you have a really sharp, like this knife is brand new, so it's going to cut right through this. This is thick, so depending on the depth of your knife blade, you might have to make a couple passes through it. You think it's taking time? Be sure to take your time, especially if you have a really sharp knife. You don't want to miscut your padding. If you need a straight ruler or something, use a ruler so you don't mess your padding all up. You got a little bit of a wave or something, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Because once you put this in the pocket of the knee pad, you're not going to see it. And unless it's a really, really crazy cut, like a really bad mess up on a cut, it's not going to affect the fit. So. Now, this keyhole, I do it like this. You don't have to. Some people just cut a triangle out, like a wedge out. That's fine too. This is just a preference of mine. That's the way the old trace ones were done, so that's the way I do mine, and I like them like that. See something about Indonesia and something else. I don't know. You can cut this out with scissors too if you want. Scissors work too. I just like the X-Acto. Something you can do too once you cut this out, take a heat gun. You can take a heat gun to it and seal this foam off. It's not a necessity, but it will close up the cells in that foam. But it's not something you have to do. Just kind of helps with moisture a little bit. That's our first piece of padding right there. We got that cut. I'm taking wad this up a little bit too. I'll get 2 of these cut out and then move on to the next step, so we're not sitting here forever and coming. Because I want to test out this. I want to test out this other back panel anyway. That way I know if it works or if I have to cut something else out, which I think it's going to work fine. That I gotta do 2 sets of these, so we'll just do 1 set for the live and get them done, because that'll probably take us 30 minutes or so. We'll see. And if we get the other one good, we got the crowd, I'll do the other set. I'm going to rough cut it. Oh, those patties, you could score it and just pop it off. It'll work fine. Oh, let me see what you got there. I can't see that far. Small print. Whoa. You can use a hot knife. Yeah, you can use a hot knife to cut this. I just don't have one, so I use my X-Acto knife. You can use a hot knife, a good pair of sharp scissors, depending on what they're made for. Just watch with your hot knife, because I take a heat gun to this sometimes too, and close the cells on the foam with it. It kind of cleans the edges up too, but yeah, you can use a hot knife. I just don't have one. I might get one eventually, because I'm going to be making a lot of these. And it'll save me on buying blades, and it'll close up the foam. I just like this X-Acto knife too, honestly. Another thing to watch, depending on what kind of foam you're cutting, watch for any kind of vapor that it might put off. Because different stuff, if you heat it up or melt it, it'll put off an odor and a vapor. So if you do use a hot knife, just check for that first. And if you need to, wear like a respirator or something like that. I don't think that'd be a problem with this foam. But I've seen some of the other foams that you heat them up and they smell pretty bad. So I'm looking at another kind of foam for these also. I just have to order it. It's a density impact foam that's like made for martial arts pads and stuff, or athletic pads. So I want to get that. It's I want to say it's a little more expensive than this, but really by the time you buy it and break it down, it's really not, because you have to buy more of it. I want to say a good size sheet of that one is like $60, but you also get, I think, like 30 or so pads out of it, if I remember right. My buddy bought it, and he likes it, so it's just a higher quality foam. But this stuff works great. I've been using this for a while, and I've had no issues with it, and I can get it locally. A lot of cosplayers use this to build cosplay outfits and stuff. Different densities. It's cheaper than buying actual EVA foam, like quote-unquote cosplay EVA foam. I've used this in kick pads and all kinds of stuff, and it's held up great. But yeah, like I've got the X-Acto knife for this, but I mean, I've got a big Boss pair of scissors right here too, and I mean, that'll cut it too. These are really sharp scissors though too, so keep that in mind. But the only thing is, like, these are my fabric scissors, so I don't want to wear my fabric scissors out. But yeah, you can use a good pair of shears and cut it. So you got those. I got a big utility knife somewhere around here too. I don't know where it's at. I got a big yellow utility knife somewhere too. It's hard telling where I put it. But you can shape these however you want, really. as far as this little groove in here. Like I said, I just use this groove like keyhole shape because that's what they used to use on all the trace knee pads. And I like it. You can do just a cutout wedge and it'll work just fine. I know I said I wasn't going to cut this out, but I got going. I was like, might as well cut it out. I got to cut it out anyway, so might as well. That, and, I mean, I was answering a question about a hot knife, so. This stuff will dull like a cheap blade. This stuff will dull a cheap blade fast. So. So we got these all cut out, good to go. So now we don't need our X-Acto knife anymore. We can put this up. Let's put your tools away. Yeah. Sometimes I save these because I'll use them for other little things. I don't think of anything I really need this for, so I'm just going to chuck that and get rid of it. So, when I use the padding, I mean, it's a matter of preference, but I always put the flat side to the outside. So, if this is your knee, put it to the outside. I think this keeps a good grip too to the skin. It helps with kind of a grip, and you can see the texture through the fabric if you put it the other way sometimes, depending on the fabric, and you might not want that. Or you might want it, so I mean, whichever way works best for you. That's what I do with mine though. So we'll put that off to the side. Like I said, we still got our front plates here sitting there. So we got our lightning bolt one, and we got our bullhead ranch one. So keep those there. Okay, so we want to line our back facing. Remember, we cut our back facing about an inch shorter, not shorter, an inch more narrow in the width than the front. That way when we put the padding in, we don't get this kind of like bulge in the back of it. Now, I like to use the Super 77 for this when I'm doing these knee pads. Just because the spray and bond is great, but the hold isn't as good. If you're just doing applique and you're going to stitch something down, it's great. If you've got to really manipulate something like you have to do with these, this stuff works a lot better. So I recommend it. When I do this, I just get a light coat and then lay this out. Try and get it as flat as possible. Which with the 77, it's sticky and it does have an odor. So if you're sensitive to odors, I do recommend like some kind of respirator or something, or ventilation. Make sure you got ventilation, because it does smell. It's pretty potent. If you've got a good good ventilation or something, like a fan or a vent, something like that, it's not too bad. But you might want to wear like a little mask or a respirator if you've got breathing problems. If you got the asthma, I would suggest something to cover your face, so you're not breathing this in. And it's not the healthiest of stuff to breathe in either. So I've been dealing with stuff for a while. It doesn't really bother me, but I got decent ventilation in here too. It's not too bad. I got a vent there and a return duct over there, so it's not too shabby. But this stuff is stickier, a lot stickier than the spray and bond. And you don't have to use these two. I mean, if you've got an adhesive you like, great. These are just the two that I stick with because it's what I'm used to. Like I said, the spray and bond is easier when it comes to repositioning stuff. So this one is a lot better when you're trying to reposition stuff. Here, let me pop this over here and get a little closer. Yes, you can. So this is better for repositioning, and it doesn't get as sticky, and it doesn't smell as bad. It doesn't have an odor to it. It does not stick to everything, though. I've had problems with that. And if it sits for too long, it loses its tackiness. One little trick, though, if you hit it with an iron or something, or like a heat press, and then let it sit for a second, it will get sticky again. This does have a smell to it, and it can be pretty potent depending on where you're at and what you're used to. It's repositionable as long as you reposition the stuff quick and don't let it sit too long. Like if you let it sit overnight, good luck getting it off. It does wash out just like anything else, though, and it does stretch with the fabric, but you're going to have warping sometimes, and when you go to pull this up, repositioning everything, if the fabric folds in on itself, it's a pain to get it apart. It really is. So you just have to be really careful with it, and you don't need as much of this either. Like, you just need a really light spritz of this. This, sometimes you have to spray quite a bit more down. And what's crazy is these cans are about the same price when I go to buy them. This can is like $11 at Walmart. This can is like 13 maybe, but this is 7 ounces and this is 14 ounces. You get twice as much. So I go with this. I've been going with this lately. But yeah, it's repositionable. Like, I just sprayed this, and if I wanted to pull it up, yeah, I can pull it up. Now, keep in mind, I didn't spray both sides for one. I didn't, like, heavy coat it. I just gave it a light spray. It's not been sitting long. And then I just cut mine out like this. Now, once I spray this with something, I keep a lot of scrap, but once I spray this with something, I get rid of the rest of it because I don't want to. It smells. I don't want to keep that in my shop. We'll cut these out. You can cut these with a rotary cutter, scissors. This is how I line all of my stuff. The trunks that I had earlier, that's how I lined those. It's just how I do mine. I put adhesive to all of it and keep it. That way it keeps it all together when I'm sewing and stuff. I do recommend, like, if you're going to heat and bond your logos on something, your applique, do that first on your base and then add your liner, because otherwise the heat from your press or iron or whatever it can make your liner come up if you're not careful with that. Now, I said earlier, you can, like, if their heat and bond starts to loosen up, you can hit it with an iron or a little bit of heat, and sometimes it'll tack it back down. So if you do that, just make sure you let it sit for a second to, like, re-adhere itself to the base fabric. That makes sense. Again, same with these backings, with your panels. Everybody does. A number of people do their panels different. This is how I do mine. I cut mine here. I cut mine in like a little circle, like a half circle, a little arch. Some people do a triangular notch. Both are fine. I just like this because it gives me more room to work with, and I like the curve of it better. I think it looks better aesthetically. It's just a personal preference. That neither one's right or wrong. I also like doing the little curve. That way, because if I were to cut a triangle or a notch out of it, my luck, I would cut too far into it and mess something up in the pad, or mess something up in the plate. Maybe a little spritz of this right here. I've been going live on TikTok with these, but I think I want to start sticking to YouTube. I like YouTube a lot better as far as these. I feel like I get more interaction and people actually come on here and want to learn for this kind of thing. I like too, it saves my lives on here. Let's see what we got. Let's see the Super 77 something. Batsy. I love your name, Batsy Bell. Super 77 sounds like a better value. Is it hard to stitch through? Does it gum up the needle or sewing machine very much? It is. So I think it's a way better bargain. I haven't had any issues really with it as far as stitching through. Just let it set up a little bit. So what I do though with my needles, especially with because sometimes I'm going through the fabric and the heat and bond and this adhesive, I take either a little baby oil or silicone spray. You can use that too, or acetone of some kind. I mainly just use baby oil, and I put it on the needle. Like every now and then I'll clean my needle with like baby oil or acetone. I like the baby oil because it doesn't smell, and I don't want to get the acetone on my fingers, and I don't want to risk getting something like that on the fabric. But you could use either one. Same with vinyl. So I do a combination of HTV, like this white is Caesar Eco Stretch HTV vinyl on top of a shattered glass spandex, and then I heat and bonded it so I could cut the lines out clean, and then I put it on this. So if I take a little of the baby oil or silicone spray and I put it on this vinyl and rub it on here as I'm sewing or on the needle, it keeps the foot from catching, and it keeps the needle from getting too gummed up and dirty. So I think the heat and bond honestly gums up my needle more than the spray does, as weird as that sounds. So now we got our front plate and we got our backing, our back plate. And like I was saying, this is, if you look, you can see, this is about an inch more narrow. So that way when we put our back on, and when we put those together and flip it inside out, it'll be a little bit more tighter in the back, and it'll fit that padding a little better. So, and that's something I'm kind of playing with. Theoretically, it should work. The way I was doing it works fine, but I mean, I'm always trying to improve on stuff. So I saw a buddy of mine doing that and making a pair of his, and it seemed like that's what he was doing. So there's that. I don't know if these strips are going to be big enough. Doesn't look like it. So this long one here is my bottom one. One thing with the bottom strip, so the top strip is just going to be as wide as this. So you're just going to wrap this however you want with your fabric to match your knee pad, or if you just wanted the elastic, however you want to do it. The bottom one, however, you're going to have this cuff around the bottom. So if you look on here, this is about, well, this is like 2.5 inches because of the seam allowance, okay? So this elastic is going to fit right in here once you sew it, and that'll be perfect. This bottom part, however, has to be longer because you're going to have this cuff to sew on it to close everything up. If you want to put a cuff on it, you don't have to, but I would recommend putting a cuff on it. Looks better. If you're going to make like a traditional Japanese style open back or trace knee pad. So when you do this bottom elastic, you're going to fold it over like a book and sandwich it in between that and have a bottom flap on that so it all comes together. It'll make sense when I put it together. But this is 2 inches. So when I do this bottom part, this has to be, oh, where's my ruler? I can't remember my measurement off the top of my head. I went blank. And I lost my ruler. Look at that. What did I do with my ruler? Oh my god, my ruler. That's my broken ruler. I need my good ruler. Where did it go? I lost my ruler. Call me Mr. Not Prepared for that one. Where did my ruler go? I just got it. My big ruler has disappeared. Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Throw it on the heat press. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Ah, big ruler. So, I got my big ruler here. Figure you have to have at least 5 inches to wrap around this, because you gotta have 2 inches to cover both sides of this, and then you're gonna want to have a flap down here. So there's a couple ways you can do this. I make mine excessively long, and then I also a lot of times take and cut this in half, because I need 2 pieces that are 7 inches. If I cut this, I need 2 pieces that are 7 inches for each set of knee pads. So I take and cut this. I also don't have to mess with as much elastic and get this lined up. That, and just say you have maybe you only have bits and pieces of this kind of material, so you need to work with some scraps, you can do that. Same with my 5-inch one here, so I'll take and cut this in half. But however you want to do your elastic, you basically, for the size that I'm making, it's going to depend on your measurements from your calf and your thigh. But like for mine, I need 2 pieces of 7-inch and 2 pieces of 5-inch elastic for each of these. So as long as I can get that out of this, I'm good. So essentially I just made a set. So here's a set of elastic for one, here's a set of elastic for the other one. And we'll put that over there. Now, the tall one, the longer one, is going to go on top, because your thigh is bigger than your calf, at least I would hope. And then the smaller one with the cuff will go on the bottom. So that's where my little 5-inch piece will go. My 7-inch piece will go up top. So I don't know if this is big enough to wrap around this or not. I don't think it is. If it is, it's going to be close. It's alright. It's not quite how I like it. You can also cut this and make a sleeve and put it in there, and that works too. It's not how I typically do mine. I like to just adhere mine to it, but whatever floats your boat. Get this piece of spray board here. Let's see. So this might not be big enough. Let's see what we got. It's 10 inches. Ta ta ta. It's 4. So realistically, I want an 8-inch piece. That way I can match it up with that pretty decent, and then cut it for the cuff. I know this isn't 8 inches. No. So I'll use this for this, and it should be fine. So there's a number of ways you can do this. Some people take and cut it and then sew a sleeve. That works good. And then flip it inside out and slide the elastic in it. You can do that. That works great. I don't like doing it. So, oftentimes, I just cut it like this. Spray that. This is a scrap piece anyway, so it's going to work fine for what I'm doing. Keep that for a strip or something. So, all I really did was I sprayed that elastic and I put it on here. I cut about 1 inch up here and 2 inches down here since I got a 2-inch elastic. So I'll fold this over and then I'll fold the other part up top. I'll spray it down and that'll work just fine. I'm also not stressing getting too much on this mat because this mat's going to go soon. So if you want to use a spray box or something like that, you can do that too. And then I just fold my stuff over. I fold the shorter end over first because I want the seams to be as hidden as possible. So, and this is going to be in the back anyway. So on mine, the way I do them, this this seam is going to be in the back of the knee, so you're not going to see it anyway. So, but that goes in the thing too, where if you want to, you can measure a 4-inch piece, 4 inches wide, and then let's spray that again. 4 inches wide, sew it into a sleeve, turn it inside out or right side out, and just slide the elastic in there that way. You can do that too. That works. I just like this way. I like this way too because it keeps my stuff from sliding around too much. So then what I'll do is I'll take and I'll sew down the edge of both of these, locks that in place, and then I'll cut it to whatever length I need. Like for this one, I'll need 2 5-inch pieces. So after I sew this, which we'll take it to the sewing machine, I'll show you. After I sew that, I'll cut it into, well, that'll be 7-inch pieces actually. I'll cut that into 2 7-inch pieces, and then that'll help me fit it to the sock for the knee pad. So now the other thing I need though is, and I don't think I have a piece wide enough, so I'm going to have to get my other piece of holographic material. Is this big enough? This might be wide enough. Let me see. Hold on. I don't know. No, probably not. Don't think it's going to make it. 7. That might be enough. 7. 7 might be okay. I try to keep them all the same, so I'm saying this is 4 inches down. So, but I usually wind up with quite a bit extra, so, because I'm going to stretch that out. So this might work fine. Let's see. That's square. So cut this. Basically, though, what you need is a rectangular piece or square piece that we've got some glue on it, so it's being a little stubborn. There you go. You need a rectangular piece that's going to go over your bottom piece of elastic. That'll give you enough overhang to put that cuff on. Do you use Teflon foot on your sewing machine for sewing metallic and foil spandex? Sometimes, yeah. I've got one. I got a standard foot on mine right now that I've been using. And it works pretty good. That's another reason I use the baby oil on some stuff. But yeah, I use a Teflon foot sometimes too. Coming pretty handy. I don't like to change my feet around a lot. I don't know why. I got so used to using that one and just that process. It seems to work okay. But a Teflon foot's a lifesaver sometimes. It really is. So hopefully I got this in the right spot. Okay. Something you can do too is you can press this so you have a line in the middle, or you can just fold it if your material will hold a crease, so you know where to put your elastic, because you're going to want to put this where the center line would be. You're going to want to put your elastic where the center line would be, if that makes sense. So I folded this, and now I have a crease. I have this line, so I will spray this. Let's see here. Let's just spray it over here. So I'll spray this. Sorry, I'm off camera. So I'll spray that, give it a little coat. I didn't want to spray it on my table. And this is at Super 77, so it's sticky. So be careful with that. And then I'll line up this. Now my elastic, because it's not this elastic is not no fold elastic, so I do get a bit of a bow in it if I'm not careful. So I try to even it out as much as possible, and then fold it over and flatten it to that line the best I can. Honestly, this just takes doing it a couple times and getting used to it because it can be a pain. So, okay, there you go. I think that'll be enough as far as how much distance I need, because I end up cutting about an inch or two off anyway half the time. I just like to have extra to work with. So what we end up with now is, I'll show you this here. So what we end up with is a piece like this. And then I will sew here and here on this elastic so it matches the one. And then I usually do a stitch here too, or I'll run it through the serger. Because I have a serger too. But either way works. I mean, just a stitch. You're going to cut it off anyway. So we have a piece like this, and we have a piece like this. And what you're going to do with them is you're going to, let's work on the close part of the table here. And what you're going to do is, see if we can get this in here. You're going to take your back piece and one of your front pieces, and you're going to lay them facing each other, right? And you're going to have to do this for like each side. And then cut your elastic to your length. Put your part where your seam's going to be, like the part you don't want it to see, put it towards the back after you sew this. Sew your top seam first. That gives you your like gap, like a little seam allowance gap for your elastic, so it sits in the right spot. This will get sandwiched in between here. So your short piece will go in the top, sandwiched in between here. You can leave a little bit sticking out. That way when you sew it down, you know you're getting a hold of the elastic. And then the reason we do this bigger piece like this is, and I'll put this together with the sewing machine and take the camera over there. That way when we put this in here and sandwich it together, and this one doesn't matter if it's which side's the back, which side's the front. You're going to have it, which actually that 4-inch might work pretty good, because you're going to have this top part up here that's going to get stitched, and you're going to have a little gap, but that's going to get put here. So you have your bottom, your elastic, and then your back, your front, back, and elastic, and that'll get all sandwiched together. When you first start doing these, pin the crap out of it, because if you don't, it can be a real pain. Eventually you can get down to where you're doing it and you don't have to pin it, or you don't have to pin it as much, but I would suggest definitely pinning it. I'm going to sew these before I cut this, and I've got a scissors and a rotary thing and everything over there. But let's do, should we do the lightning or should we do the bull? What do you think? Should we do the lightning or the bull? They're both going to be the same size. What you think? Lightning or the bull? Lightning or the bull? Leaning towards the bull. Leaning towards the bull. The lightning's pretty cool, but I'm leaning towards the bull. Which one did I start? Which one is this? The bull. Alright, let's do the bull. We'll do the bull. Lightning. Okay, we'll do the lightning. Alright. You called it first. Let's do the lightning. The lightning set's got more pieces to it anyway, for the gear. It looks really cool. I'm a big fan of this set of gear. If this works good too, I'll cut. I gotta move my camera. Let's go to my sewing machine. If this works the way I think it's going to do, I can speak in the English. then I think it'll be good. So, and for my wondering, so here's my sewing machine. I got a Juki DX2000 QVP. I just got this not long ago. I just did a review and put a review up for it too. Last week I think, I don't know. It was just a quick throw together review, just saying how I like the machine so far. It works great, so I have no issues with it. It's been a great machine. So I have a serger. I'm gonna do this on just the sewing machine. That way, because not everybody has a serger and not everybody likes the serger. So I'm gonna do this just on the sewing machine. So that way it's easier to follow and everything else. I love this thing so far because it's got a lot of little perks on it that my other machine did not have. I need to move it over a little bit because I slid it. Came with this giant freaking table. It's been a really good machine so far. Nice upgrade from my other one. My other one's a Juki too. Yes. I use either ballpoint pins, just like this, little yellow tipped ballpoint pins, or I love these sewing clips. These things are great too. For this, sometimes the pins work better, but chaw. So let's stitch this. You know, I don't know if this came with a Teflon foot or not. I didn't even look and see. It came with a whole bunch of stuff. Like, it came with a boatload of stuff. I don't think it came with a Teflon foot, though. Nope, a zipper foot. And then there's a zipper foot, buttonhole foot, little edger. Yeah, well, I'll be damned. No Teflon foot. Not in there anyway, unless it's in the quilting box. It came with this little quilting box thing too. I don't see a Teflon foot, but there's this plastic. Which, why does it look like it's broke? Oh no, it's not. Okay. It did come with this applique foot though, kind of. So I mean, I could use that. I just like this big weird foot here for whatever reason. I don't know why. So it came with that applique foot, and it came with this one, which I think this is a pearl foot. I think this is for doing pearls and stuff. So, and then it came with a free motion quilting foot, whatever this foot is. It came with some really wild looking feet, because this is like this is a quilting box that it came with. All kinds of quilting feet and different supplies. Got a decent deal on it though. I ain't gonna complain. Let's see. Let's put this on 4.6 and 2.6. So, the settings I use on this for this here. And this has an auto tensioner on it, so I haven't had to mess with the tension or anything. But for the materials that I use and the spandex and the elastic, on my other machine, each machine is going to be different. I kept it on about a 4 or 5 tension. Yeah, so got the machine used. Yes, I bought this one used. New, this thing was like $1,400. I wasn't about to spend that. I had a budget of like $500, and I got kind of lucky and was able to go over a little bit. I got this one for $700 because it was a trade-in, but the only reason it was really a trade-in though was because the lady that had it, it was too complicated for her. She just didn't like it. She wanted a simple, old school machine, I guess, that she could quilt on. And this was just too much for her. So this thing's got the auto up and down for the needle and the foot. It's got the auto cutter, so I can hit a little button and it cuts it. Variable speed. It's got a bunch of stitches that I'll never use on it, more than likely. Um, and my favorite feature though is this here. So watch, like when I put the needle down, if I'm not sewing, I can pivot. It raises the foot up a little bit to pivot, and then when I start sewing, let me lock stitch this. When I start sewing, it brings the foot down and it takes off. I do a lot of applique, so that by itself, when she showed me that, I was like, okay, I'm sold on that one. I was like, that's worth the extra money by itself that I didn't plan on spending. And, oh, I made the one fatal flaw. Oh, I didn't fill my bobbin up. Sweet baby Jeebus. I didn't fill up my bobbin. I got distracted and I didn't fill up my bobbin. My word. Okay. That's alright. At least it's now and not halfway through the thing. So I was just saying too when I was live earlier, I was working on this earlier, that I had just enough thread to finish what I was doing before it ran out. And then I did that. Oh well. It's got an auto winding bobbin too, which is pretty nice. So, yes, it's for my bobbins. A lot of times I use just like a cone thread or a serger thread. This little thing is a pain to get around sometimes. The auto winder is kind of sensitive, so it's a good and bad thing. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because it's kind of like a double-edged sword sometimes. I do like it now that I've gotten used to it. The first couple times I tried to get it to take off, it kept stopping on me because I was putting too much tension on the thread, and this little tension disc, I didn't have it flossed in there really good, and it kept stopping on me. I was like, man, this thing's a pain. But now that I'm kind of getting used to it and figuring it out, it's like any other machine. You just gotta play around with it and figure out what works. It's got the like little auto drop-in bobbin, so you just put your bobbin in there and run it through, and it cuts the thread and sets it. It's really like spoiled me so far. I definitely recommend the Juki machines. Camera doesn't want to go back up far. There we go. No, there we go. So okay, that's a little better. That's a little better. So okay, back to this. I set your thread stitch settings are going to be different depending on what you're wanting to do. For this, for mine, and this is just what I use and recommend. I'm just going to go back over that. I do about a 4.5 width and like 2.5, 2.6. This goes in 0.2 increments on the length, just for a decent little stitch. Keeps it clean, looks good, it's not too gaudy. It works. And there's that pivot. Bam, like a pivot. And as far as like where I put the needle and stuff, and like where I'm tracking this, I just put my presser foot, the edge of it, I put the elastic along the edge of that for this 2-inch elastic, and that seems to work pretty good. Kind of makes sure I hit the seams on everything pretty good with the way I do this. Easy to follow. You can position yours wherever you want as long as it works for the project you're doing. That's just where I put mine. The auto cutter works most of the time, but every now and then it's still. I need to clean this thing too. I've been using it for like a week straight, and I haven't cleaned it out yet. Oh, I do want to stitch this down. The pedal has a heel click too that you can program. So I've got the heel click program to just do a reverse stitch. Just out of habit though, I still hit the button. So I can click the reverse and it does that. Not too bad. I've noticed with that auto cutter, like I have to leave it really still. Like if you bump it or nudge it or anything when that auto cutter is going off, it misses a thread. So we got that one. Now, where's our other piece of elastic here? There we go. It's under here somewhere. There we go. I'm using transparent thread and white, so it's not really going to matter which way I do this. I am going to do this one on this side, so I make sure I hit the seam on this because I don't want it kind of flappy. Tack stitch around. I just don't want this piece kind of loose. Oh, you know what? I think I broke my thread. I did. The joys of clear, transparent thread. Which I think I know what happened. Yeah, it got hung up back here. We've had this problem before with transparent thread. It's light, so sometimes what happens is it'll get wound up around your spool if your tensions are a little weird or if you're moving stuff around. You gotta pull it out and rethread it. This stuff is really good too for catching the little notch that's on the spool that keeps your thread from coming unwound. This stuff is horrible for that sometimes. I clean mine once a week, or try to, or every other week. But I'm also on mine every day. I'm on mine every day for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, because this is what I do full time. So that's how often I clean mine. You might not have to do that. I would clean it at least once a month though, if you sew pretty frequently. And it doesn't take long. Tune-up maintenance, if you're going to take it in for like a tune-up maintenance, once a year, something like that, unless it's just acting ridiculous. Have it serviced. Like, my one I've got over there, my Juki I have over there, I just kept it clean. I would clean it pretty regular. It's never been serviced, and it works fine. I've never had to have it serviced, though, so knock on wood. You don't have to oil this machine either, which I like. I've got a FAF, an older FAF, that I have to oil, and then my sergers, I gotta oil those. I work with a lot of knits too, so stretch materials and stuff like that make a lot of lint. So that can be a pain. Luckily, this thing's not too hard to clean out though. The bobbin casing and the plate and all that come off pretty easy. And everything's pretty accessible. This has got a lot of room, so if you take the needle out and the foot off and take this off and pull everything out, it's pretty easy to clean out with a brush and a little vacuum maybe. Not too bad. Okay, so we got that. I want to snip these off. This should be good. Like I said, it just depends on how much you use it. I use mine a lot, so there's that. Let's see. My other rotary cutter. No, I do not. I left it over there. That's right. Steal these scissors. Oh, scissor thief. I want to cut this down. Get rid of this. I'm messy when I work too, so like, there's that. I'm messy when I work. I like this table too because it's got a ruler on it, so I can measure stuff off. Like I said, I want this to be like 5 inches, so right there is 5. Bloop, bloop. Nope, crap, wait. This is supposed to be 7. This is supposed to be 7. This is the top piece. This is 7. I might have messed up. I think I messed up. There we go. So I think where I cut into this, I'm not going to be able to use this now though. So I might have to redo this. That's all right. That's what happens when you get talking sometimes. It's all right. No worries. Yeah, because that's not going to be 7 now. Not even close. I definitely don't want to use that. I've done that how many times? I've made these knee pads how many times, and sometimes I just forget which side is up. And because there for a while I was doing where both pieces were like this, so I instantly look at it and I just cut both of them, and I don't know why. I always think the smaller piece should be the smaller number, but that's not the case. So, which that's all right. If I'm just putting one together and not doing a demonstration, it doesn't take me that long to do it. No big deal. So, guys coming to pick these up tomorrow because they have an event. It's for an NWA event Saturday. So he's going to come pick them up tomorrow night. And the only thing I have left to finish is these knee pads, and I have to put a logo, heat press a logo on a sweater for a guy, which isn't difficult. So, all right, this is 5. This is 5. So, there we go. A lot of times I recommend doing this with a ruler and a rotary cutter. So, works really good. But these scissors are nice and sharp. It's not something I'm stressing. Bam, there we go. Now that I know what I'm actually supposed to cut, don't mess it up. So, all right, let's get rid of this. We don't need this piece now. So we'll just get rid of that. Only bad thing is that's a waste of money right there. So what do you make? What do you do? Yeah, I definitely appreciate all the questions and everything else. Keeps it interesting. So, all right, so there's that one. Let's pull our pieces here for a full pad. So we got that, we got that. So we'll just do this one. Now we're going to have to, let's find our top and bottom. So here's our top, here's our top. We got to put these together. Now the thing to keep in mind though is we're putting these together, but one side's shorter than the other, so we're going to have to stretch this a bit, which isn't a big deal. So I would definitely pin this. I'm just going to pin the ends and the middle, and I think that'll work fine for me. And this is just how I do mine. You can go through and you can put down and pin everything all at once if you want. It's not a necessity. I do this top seam first because it helps me place my elastic. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm just going to use a zigzag stitch on this. The one I'm using, or the one that I used for that, should be okay. I think I'm going to lower it down, like the width I think will be fine. I'm going to make the length 2 though and shorten it up so that way it gets a good, strong, close together stitch. And then I use like a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch seam allowance. That usually works pretty good because I want this to be snug. So because it's going to stretch. Now, if you're not using stretch material or something, then yeah, that's all different. This is something where honestly this machine might be a little difficult because of the foot automatically going on. So we'll stitch that. Just keep your tension. Make sure you don't slide. If you need to pin it more, pin it more. It's not a big deal. I also got big hands, so it's easy for me to hold on to stuff. You can also use a stretch stitch on this if you want, which isn't a bad idea. Like kind of get everything roughed, but when you do your elastic, I like to go back and forth over the elastic a little bit so it's in there. But you can take that straight stretch stitch on here, it looks like a lightning bolt, and go around all of this, and it will make a nice tight stitch, and it ain't going nowhere. Let's see if they can cut that again. So, 2 things with the Jukies I've noticed that is a little flawed here and there. The needle threaders are always wonky. Like my needle threader on this one's broke, but I don't think it was a flaw with the machine. I think when the lady had it, she broke it because she complained that she had issues with it and yada yada yada, and like I think she just broke it because the little hook in there is bent and messed up, which happens a lot. They have a replacement part for it. I can go pick it up. All it is it just pops off and pops on. It's not a big deal.
I just do general sewing, still learning, but I want to learn how to sew dance wear and wrestling gear as well, but never used spandex before.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm the opposite. I learned on spandex and everything. General sewing, like for like clothing fabric and all that, I'm not as versed in. So I'm learning the opposite way, um, which is interesting and fun. Uh, so yeah, there's that. But I'm sure you can knock it out and do it. It's not. It's just repetition. That's all it really is. No, you're fine. That's why I popped on here. That's why I'm doing the videos, and this is part of the way I want to build my business up. So you're totally fine. You're not bothering me at all. It makes it more fun. I'll get this done. I mean, I'm not worried about it. Cutting the one thing and messing it up, I probably would have done that anyway. Just because it's like, oh, well, there's that. So, like with this, I would recommend pinning this stuff though. Who are you gonna make wrestling gear for? Like, where are you out of? Like pro wrestling gear like this? Because that's really cool. I mean, I'm all for that. I've had people tell me like, "Aren't you afraid people are gonna like start making their own stuff or take business if you're showing people how to do it?" Nope. There's so many wrestlers out there and so much work out there. It's ridiculous. Jump on it. You ain't gonna hurt me, no. All I need theoretically is 20 good clients, and I have way more than that. So I mean, that's not a brag thing. That's just I've got 20. I've been wrestling for 25 years. I know a bunch of people, and I do good work. At least that's what they tell me. So I like teaching people and showing people how to do this. And I got a buddy of mine that makes uh, he makes kick pads and knee pads and stuff. And that he started just doing kick pads and stuff, and was messaging me for advice on that, and I was helping him out. And he just learned on his own. And he started making stuff for Carmelo Hayes, and I'm telling you what, this kid's stuff is better than mine. He's gotten where like his stuff is better than mine. Blows me away. His kick pads and stuff and that at least. Tights wise, no. Tight wise, I think we're on the same level. He thinks I'm better than him at it. He's like, I can't wait to get on your level for my tights and gear. I'm like, bro, you're already on the level. Like, your stuff is amazing. He doesn't do videos or nothing. He just makes his stuff and then he posts pictures of it up. But yeah, he makes stuff for Carmelo Hayes and Jacob Fatu and a couple people. Just this humble kid. He's so awesome. But it's just getting a process down. Something else some people do is they'll take and they'll sew this little notch or this curve here too before they put their elastic in. You can do that as well, and that'll help because you want to put the elastic a little below where that curve's going to be, above and below, because when you sew that, you're going to have a little gap right there. So it's nothing major. Like if you don't, you don't. It's not going to mess anything up, but it does make it sit and fit a little better with the elastic if you have that there once you flip it inside out. Because eventually you're going to turn this. So once you turn it, you'll have that little gap. So you can pin both sides and then sew it, or you can do one side and then the other, whichever is easier for you. Most of the time I do one side and then the other, but so pin that around so you've got your elastic here, and then you can see that little bit of a gap. A little bit of a gap just helps, like I said, when you turn it inside out and when you put the padding in. It gives it a little more free space. Otherwise, when you go to turn it, it kind of bunches because you don't have that elastic doesn't have anywhere to go, if that makes sense. Kind of the same with up here, why I do this up here first. Now the only problem you're going to have is, so you can stitch this side first, which will make it, might make it easier for you. When you go to do this side over here, you have to pull this to get it set. Now, something that might help is pull this and then take a needle or a sewing clip, right? Oh, cool. Take a needle or a sewing clip and put up here on this so it keeps this elastic pressed to this seam. It just helps keep it from bunching up and sliding on you. It's an extra little step, but once you do it a couple times, it'll save you a lot of headache. Like I do mine on the serger sometimes, and on the serger I can take and rip it through the serger like it ain't nothing. But with the serger you have a blade, so you have to be really careful with that so you don't cut into something you don't want to. I have a close friend who is a wrestler, and I got inspired to want to try and making gear for him, but I'd like to focus more on women's gear. Women's gear is where it's at. I'm telling you, if you can get down how to make women's gear and get them happy, because women are more picky, typically, justifiably so, because they are, they have more pressure on their look than the men, I feel. I've made some women's gear. It's not my specialty or forte, but I do make some every now and then for friends of mine. But I've got some other makers and friends that's all they really do. My one friend Maribel, she's got a business called La Lucha Lady, and she primarily does women's gear, and she does a lot of gear for WWE and Ring of Honor and NXT girls, and her stuff is ridiculously good, but she gets paid quite a premium to do it. Now she's put in a lot of time to learn how to do it and build up her clientele. Like she makes gear for Tessa Blanchard and Roxanne Perez and all these people. And like we'll talk here and there, and she'll message me at random and be like, "I've got so many gears, so many." She's Hispanic. She's Latin. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly where she's from. But she's a sweetheart. And she makes such good stuff, and she's got her own little style of doing it and everything, but that's her market, and she gets really good money per set of gear. But the girls also usually have a lot of details also, like straps and jewels and buckles and this and that. A lot of them like the straps on everything, like around the neck, around the legs, everything. So it's like, who's your friend that wrestles? I might know who they are. It's a good possibility. I've been everywhere. I've been everywhere, man. It's nice. It can be stressful at times. I only take so many orders a week or a month because I overloaded myself before, and that sucks. You don't want to do that. But yeah, it's a nice little living if you can get it built up. Like I said, I enjoy it. Plus, it affords me where I can stay home and work, and I still wrestle too. So, where's that my other t-shirt? So it helps keep my schedule free. Well, not free, but it helps keep my schedule flexible to where I can schedule shows and stuff. Like next week, I'm going to Arizona for 4 days. Because we have to drive out there. So we'll be driving Thursday. We'll be in Arizona for a show Friday and Saturday. and then driving back Sunday, so that way we can get back in, because the other guys have to work at their job and stuff, and then I have orders to do and kids and this and that, so it's like. But it's kind of nice because, like, as long as I keep the clients happy and hit what deadlines I need to when I need to, I'm good. Key thing too is, like, just take your time with these. Like, when you're going around these, there's no reason to rush, especially with padding. And it should save this live too. I keep these lives up. I don't take them down. So if it saves this live, by all means, come back and reference it again. I sew back around the perimeter of mine, on the top too, a lot of times. And like I said, once you get it down, you'll knock them out quick. Theoretically, especially if it's a plain set, I can do a plain set of knee pads in about 30 minutes. If I'm really on it and focused. The only place I still have issues sometimes is the cuff at the bottom, because that can be a little bit of a pain. Some of that comes down to your sewing machine and how it's set up. Zombie Sick. I know that name. I know that name for some reason. Like, I don't think it's somebody I've met in person, but I know that name for some reason. I'm gonna go back over this too, just because. I'm just going back over this. House of Lucha. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, if you can get working on gear and what and get something made for him and get in with them, I mean, you could build a clientele off of that really good, especially if you can learn how to make masks and stuff. Ooh, there you go. Masks is a whole other thing. I make masks too. That's actually where I started off at, because I I wrestle in a mask still. I can't do that for this, obviously, but that, and I'm going to be coming out of mine this year after a stupid amount of time. But yeah, if you can learn how to make masks, oh man, there's a huge market for that. Yeah, I've been wrestling for 25 years. I'm 45 years old. I've been wrestling since I was 18. Well, I started training when I was 18. I started wrestling when I was in my when I was 20. Because I trained for a year and a half. So I love it. And I've gotten to make a living off of that and this and merchandise and teaching guys, and I gear most everything I do around wrestling and athletics. So went and got a certificate for I went and got certified as a massage therapist. So I have a degree in that. Anything that kind of helped with that. So I'm trying to get a job with the NWA. Like that's who this gear is for. This gear right here is for the Kazanas, who are they're one of the NWA Tag Team Champions. I don't remember which belt they've got, which tag strap, but I think they're gearing them for the actual NWA World Tag Team titles, the way it's looking. And then I make Carson Drake's gear also. He's the one that's going to be coming and picking us up. So they got a big weekend coming up. Leathercraft is awesome. I was just talking about that last week, trying to learn some leathercraft stuff. Okay, so we got our sock. Bam. And we have to flip it inside out, or right side out, I should say. So when we flip this, what we should get is, and you'll see up here what I was talking about, like if you don't have that little bit of a gap, say we've got this little space here. Well, so now, like here, we've got, connects good. If we didn't have that little bit of a space, it would be really weird. Rockwell's videos on mask making. Oh, Tim's great. That's my dude. Yeah. Rockwell is awesome. He's the best leather worker I know. Hands down. He's expensive. But that's also because he uses really good materials. So, and again here, where we had that gap, we left that little space. That gives it to where now we've got this. If we didn't have that little space in there, we'd be more bunched up. So that little space comes in handy, and that worked pretty good. We're spaced out pretty good. So we're going to get our piece of padding, and this is the fun part. Now, I layer mine. Like the way and you don't have to do this. So I line mine, right, with 2 layers. You can do this with just the 1 layer of spandex, especially if it's thick. I do the 2 just because I think it holds up better. It's probably overkill. Honestly, it probably really is overkill. But I like my stuff thick. I like it to last. And like if I'm going to charge somebody $150 for a good pair of custom knee pads, because that's about what these are, for time and materials, I'm not going to shortchange them. I'm going to make sure they get $150 worth and their money out of them. And they're going to last, and they're going to look good, and they're going to be thick, and when they get them, they're going to be like, man, this was worth the money. Not just some thin, high spots, E-Lucha, generic, in-stock stuff. Even my in-stock stuff, I don't skimp on them. So let's see if
putting this here pad in. Let's see if that helped. Man, I think this fit's gonna be good. The hardest part is getting the freaking pad in there. That's the hardest part, honestly, is a lot of times getting the pad in there. You gotta stretch these bad boys. I stay stitch mine also. So like once they're in there, honestly, I'm getting tired. I might finish this part up here and go lay down myself for a while. It's been a long day. As long as I got them finished up, I'll get them more. As long as I got them finished up for them before Carson comes and picks them up tomorrow night, I'm fine. I ain't worried about it. I do have to run to the fabric store. Joanne's got a sale going on. The padding is just honestly wiggling it in there and getting it in there the best you can and making it fit. There's no other gimmick around that, to be honest. Cutting some of the back off did help a little bit. Honestly, I probably could have took a little bit more off. Surprisingly. Nah, I think that'll work. Because once we pull the cuff down. Probably should have made these a little longer, honestly. To put this cuff on. I probably could have made it a little longer. But, nah, there we go. There we go. I just didn't pull it down far enough. There we go. That's better. Okay. Pull it down further. There we go. There we go. So now we got our padding in there. Yeah, that taking that in that little inch did snug that up, so that did help a bit. You just have to shift it around and get it where you want it and get it squared up. It's not going to be perfect, more than likely. There we go. There we go. There we go. Come on there, Betty. There we go. There we go. So now we got that. Now, what I'll do with these is, I'll trim this thread first. But, so what I'll do with these, though, I'll put a stay stitch here, 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 and here in all four corners. So that way, when this is moved around, the material doesn't shift off the padding and that, and it doesn't get all weird, because you don't want that to happen. When I do that, I'll change it out. I use a leather needle to do that, so the needle doesn't bow or bend or break, because you'll either break your needle or you will hit this plate and you will mess this plate up and throw your machine off. I've done that before too, and it sucks. And if that needle breaks and hits that plate, it'll get stuck into padding most of the time, but you run the risk of it coming out and hitting you in the face. Not fun. So the only thing left to do on this really, and this is the fun aggravating part, you can sew this shut and be done with it. Nothing wrong with that. Not a big deal. You can sew it shut, be done with it. You can take a piece of elastic and make a round and put a piece of elastic on this to where it makes a cuff. Like wrap it around here and stitch it down. What I do is I make a round, or a loop, whatever you want to call it. I put it around this and I make it match the material or a contrast. You know, like maybe they want the same material but they want it black, or they want it gold, or whatever. I'm going to make it silver just to match this, because that's just what we got. And what we're going to do, make the loop, make it a little smaller than whatever this is, so it fits tight and stretches. Put it around there, and then the hard part is just getting as close to this pad as you can and sewing around it. I've yet to try that on this machine, so I'm looking forward to doing that, but not at the same time. And you can do that one of two ways. You can do, if it'll fit under here, under your free arm, great. Do that. That's what I'm going to try to do with this, because this free arm is bigger than my other one, and I think it will fit fine. Yeah, this is going to fit a lot better. So my other free arm, oh, that's way better. So the free arm on my other Juki was so low, I could not get this under there. I had to put a book under my machine over here in order for it to sit up high enough for me to get under that and around that. This one sits up a lot higher, and my padding will fit through here, and I can, yeah, this is way better. And I can put this under here. I'll probably change my foot. I'm going to have to raise this up. This also raises up higher, so I can get this padding under here. So a lot of it's going to come down to the machine, but I can get this up under here now, and I don't have any issues with the way this spins. So this is a game changer and a half. Oh man, this is way nice. I feel like a little old lady in a sewing circle. I get excited over the goofiest stuff. I really do. But that makes my job easier though, and it ups the quality. So like, I'm excited about that. Now, if you need to pin this or something, pin it. There's nothing wrong with that. But you want to get this as close as possible to that padding. So, so that's going to come down to what stitch you pick, what foot you use, all that jazz. Yeah. So. I'm kind of curious now. I kind of want to just go around it, just to go around it and seal it and see what it does. And see how close we get. See, on one of my old machines, I had a zipper type foot. And I could take that foot and put it on this machine, or on that machine. And I'm on the seam too, so that probably doesn't help. Here. I could put it on that foot, put that foot on there, and there you go. And I could get right up next to that padding, and it was great. I'm gonna make this a little longer stitch and try this on a 4, and I'm just gonna see if I can get this bad boy close. See, my worry though is it's not gonna pull it through. I'm gonna have to get used to. Yeah, so far this thing's been great. So it's just gonna be getting down the right way to do it on the machine that I have. I mean, that's really all it is. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to pin it in order to keep this out where I need it to be, which that's not a big deal. I should have done that anyway, honestly. I was just trying to be a little overzealous. I'm kind of used to doing it the way I was doing it on my other machine. There we go. Yeah, I think if I pin it down, it'll be good. Try not to sew your fingers down. Oh, get up in there. There we go. There we go. That's not too shabby. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pin it in order to really get it on there. Oh, that's one reason my thing was stuck behind there. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to pin this, which I would recommend anyway. In that to really get it squared up. But you kind of get the idea. And then once that cuff's on there too, it's going to pull up under here to make it tighter. So like I said, my suggestion, put that cuff around here, pin it really good, and just take your time going around until you get comfortable with it and figure your machine out. This one I think will pull it through really good. I might have to play with a setting to get it to take it really good, or mess with the came with a spool holder too. I might have to mess with the foot tension on this to make it hold down a little bit more, if that makes sense, when it's sewing, because it's wanting to kind of slide a little bit. So I might have to take the tension on this and crank it down to like a 6 or something and whatnot, so it really holds it. 5 is pretty optimal. That's about the normal. But pin it, take your time, and you'll have a knee pad. We've been on here almost 2 hours. That's a crazy live. That's not too bad. Only 3 likes on the live. That's nice though. That's all right. There's 4 people watching right now, so I think that's kind of cool. You know what? I got better results on here than I did TikTok. You go YouTube. Go on YouTube with your bad stuff. I am going to take this stitch out because I was just testing this, but because I wanted to see something. I may use a little heavier needle on that too. I don't know. But I don't know what time it is. I know I'm about ready for bed doing the lay down. Yeah, I am going to take this back out because I don't like the way that sat. No biggie there though. Well, tomorrow, or today, I guess technically, I'm probably going to do like a what I call a freestyle Friday, depending on what all we get done. Where I'm just going to come on here and do a random piece of wrestling gear. Might be a kick pad, might be kick pads, might be trunks, might be pair of long tights, do them up, and we'll walk through the whole process. Bunched up on me. I didn't pull that tight enough. That was my fault on that. This little part right here kind of bunched up. That's what happens when you rush. Favorite person to make gear for? You know, that's a tough question. I really like making Carson Drake's gear from the NWA, the Kazanas. Lord Crew, if you know him. He's been a great one to make stuff for. Beastman, who just wrestled for GCW and was over in Japan. Crew was over in Japan too. Awesome, glad you learned a lot. Pop back on here anytime. I like the conversation, it makes it go faster. Aaron Williams is always fun. He's a guy out of Cincinnati who gets around quite a bit. Great wrestler. The veteran Jack Vaughn. Yeah, Carson's gear fits. Yeah, I like doing Carson's. Wait till you see his new one. His new one is something else. His new one is obnoxious, but it looks super fancy. Like, yeah, his new one is going to be nice. It's already done. I just have to do the sweater. His gear is done though. I finished it the other day. His doesn't take me that long either, because it's pretty simple. It's usually just some kind of fancy trunk, fancy material trunks, and his logo on the back and the knee pad covers. So his isn't that hard to do. It's just finding the right materials, and then I've been collaborating with Aaron Stevens because Aaron Stevens has been taking good care of him and getting our stuff together. So that's been fun. I've enjoyed that. I'm trying to do more of the NWA guys stuff. I don't know if you know the Hex or not. Marty Bell and Allison Kay Sienna. I've done theirs a couple of times, and that was a lot of fun. It was some work. That was a challenge, but theirs, man, they looked really good in theirs. The black and gold gear that they wore at Impact and AEW was one of the ones that I made. And that came out sharp. It was crispy. I think my favorite one here lately, though, has been Beastman's that I just made him. The snakeskin looking gold and green and brown. That was kind of weathered up. That was trunks, long tights, and gauntlets. And man, that looked way better on than I thought it was going to. Like, I figured it would look good, and it came out great. But man, that one was some work, but I liked it because it was just creative patchwork. I got to just kind of freestyle that one a bit. He gave me a basic idea and was like, have at it. So he's going to be one of my regular guys, I think. He gets gear from a few people, depending on what he's wanting, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I know when he goes back to Japan, I'm going to make his stuff for Japan. So when Crew went over there and when he went over there, evidently I got some compliments on my work from the guys over in Japan. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was neat. I haven't heard from any of them as far as making gear, but they've got some amazing gear makers in Japan, and they don't have to deal with a language barrier, so, or international shipping or anything like that. I mean, you figure over in Japan, you've got Soy Takada, which I don't know if he's in Japan or if he's over here, but I know he makes stuff for them over there. Cacao, yeah, there's a number of guys over there that just are awesome with gear. I get on the Japanese YouTube for over there sometimes. For some of the guys that I follow, and like some of them follow me, which is kind of cool. I was surprised at that. And watch some of the videos. You have to translate some of them sometimes, but it's still really cool. Oh, ow. Stab myself in the finger. I don't like the way that came out. Definitely going to have to pin this and do it. This machine should work a lot better for this, though, so that's a plus. Because I can get up underneath the machine with the padding. Preppy Carson Drake. I appreciate it. I try. I just want to keep getting better. Not bad for being self-taught for the most part. Just messing up a lot. And then I got guys that like Tyler Thorne from Pro Wrestling Wear and Mike Woody, who's one of the best mask makers in the world. Even Jade. I had hit up Jade a few times and talked to him for a while. I haven't talked to him in quite a while. I need to check in on him. For masks. Congo Kong, who makes some really good stuff. So, John Cody Jenkins of JCJ Gear. We all kind of collaborate and help each other out when we need it. So, I'm determined this year to get my own style of knee pad and everything, where it's like those are mine. So far, I'm kind of on track with it. Like, these are really nice. I should have made this cuff longer to give me a little more room to work with, but that's not a big deal. Man, late. That's the main thing I got to do tomorrow, though, is finish these knee pads up and put the jewels on them and do Carson's logo on his sweater. Logo on his sweater will take me like 15 minutes. The jewels will take like 15 minutes or so. I'll throw those on and let them dry while I'm doing the knee pads. So it'll probably be do the jewels, do Carson's logo, do the knee pads, get them done, and go from there. I need to go to Joann's too, since they got a sale going on. I went to the one in Florence, Kentucky, and grabbed a bunch of material because they're doing 40 and 50% off on stuff. So I figure stock up while I can and get a bunch of stuff in here. And what I don't use on custom orders, I'll use on stock gear, make some fun projects and put them up for sale. And Carissa's been making some stock stuff, so that's been good. But not too shabby. Not too shabby. Florence, y'all. Yep. Florence, y'all. That's what they were calling the baseball team for a minute. I don't know if they still are, the Florence Y'alls. It was funny. The Florence Y'alls. But, anyway, I'm going to hop off of here and get me a nap in. I'm running down. Been going all day. Chris is back here on the floor asleep. She passed out a while ago. She didn't make it very far. But she gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning for work. She's off tomorrow, off the weekend. So we're going to spend the weekend in the shop making stuff, and we got a money goal to hit, which we're going to hit it. I'm not worried about that. We'll hit it. Because this order here and then Carson's, that's more than half of it. And then I want to finish up some stuff for the troublemakers, and we're going to make about 4 or 5, make and finish about 4 or 5 pieces to have up for sale. I need to get more knee pad padding. So that's the one thing that sucks, is I'm going to finish this order, and this order is a good size order, good paying order, but I'll probably take half of it and go buy a bunch of materials that I need. So there goes half of it right there. But that's part of it. Man, can't make art without supplies. But, okay, to the 3 of y'all that are still on here, you guys have a good evening, morning, day, whatever it is where you're at. And I'm going to hop off of here. You guys, thanks for watching along.